Election this season is just about here, and there will be some very important constitutional amendments on the ballot in November. You may not hear as much about them as you do about the office election. So here to tell us what one of those amendments is all about is Andy Cruppen of Brown & Cruppen. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good.
This is an important one in your field, but we want to talk about how judges are elected and or appointed, right?
Yeah.
And there's some changes that are being proposed. Is that right?
It is, and you know, people think it just affects lawyers, but the reality is it affects all of us, because really what it affects is our civil justice system.
Okay. Talk to us about how it's done right now.
Right now what happens is there's a judicial commission. So when there's a judicial vacancy, a judge leaves.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason. Lawyers send their recommendations to the Judicial Commission. The Judicial Commission currently is 3 lawyers who are elected by lawyers, 3 non-lawyers who are appointed by the governor, and then a sitting member of the Missouri Supreme Court who they decide and send a representative. So there are 7 people.
You have to be recommended for that position. If I'm a lawyer and I want to be a judge, I can't just send in an application to be a judge.
The lawyers will send in their recommendations to the commission. The commission will look at those recommendations, and they will pick 3 of those people. They will send their 3 recommendations then on to the governor. The governor will then pick the judge, who will ultimately sit as a judge, and then ultimately will have to face election to be retained.
Right. It's not even re-election. It's your first opportunity.
Just to be retained.
Once you're appointed to that position, in order to retain it, you have to get the popular vote during an election.
Exactly. And just to give you a little history.
So the public does have some input on this.
Eventually,
yes.
Eventually. But that's after they've had it's a merit-based plan.
Right.
So that's after they've had the opportunity to see for a little while how this judge has in fact done his job or her job.
Right.
Originally what happened, Missouri originally had judges just appointed by the governor. And there was a fear that it was too weighted to the top. The governor was affecting the civil and criminal justice system single-handedly by the judges he or she selected.
So what's being proposed now in the House? This is the Missouri House where this proposal is.
Right, and so what's happening is they are proposing changing, instead of 3 lawyers, 3 non-lawyers, and a judge, what the proposal is I believe there will still be a judge sitting on the commission, but that person will not have a vote. So the vote will be 3 lawyers, and then the governor will now elect appoint 4 members. So now you got, I mean, while a lot of people say, oh, it's just a change of 1 person, that's a pretty valuable person, because it's 4 to 3.
Does the governor appoint these members of the Judicial Committee?
Correct. That's the proposal, is the governor will, instead of appointing 3, will now appoint 4. Traditionally, the governor's appointments were lay people. Now what the proposal is not only does the governor go from 3 to 4 appointments, he can also appoint lawyers. So it really is taking what's currently called the nonpartisan court plan.
Checks and balances.
And I think it really is making it a lot more partisan, because you have the governor who sits at the top of our government who can now have 4 votes essentially on this panel, some of which are lawyers, which I think injects a lot of politics into this. You know, just if the goal is to make it, I think the argument is the nonpartisan plan they're saying is not nonpartisan, and they want to make it nonpartisan. Although there's been a lot of political discourse over this issue, and it's become a very hot issue. So if in fact the change is to make it nonpartisan, I'm not sure why there's so much politics involved. It kind of makes you wonder what's really going on. But I think what's going to happen is we're essentially returning to our original, and I'm talking original 1800s setup of having the governor really responsible for appointing single-handedly many of the judges in our state.
Well, and I'm glad you came in and explained it to us, because this is an issue that's probably not going to get as much airtime as presidential elections and governor and everything else. So
it should, though, because it affects all of us. It really does.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it very much. If you have a legal question for Brown & Cruppen, email us at greatday@.